All right, Rob Dubbin is a writer, producer, and developer whose work spans television, games, puzzles, bots, tooling, and procedural generation, sometimes in combination. As a TV writer on The Colbert Report and The Late Show, Rob has won 4 Emmys, 4 Writers Guild Awards, and 2 Peabody Awards. Rob and Stephen Colbert co-created Scripto, a collaborative system for professional scriptwriting that powers many shows, including Last Week Tonight, The Daily Show, and Weekend Update. Rob has created games such as Earl Grey, a text-based adventure that won them and co-creator Allison Parrish the interactive fiction community's XYZZY Award. Rob and Allison also received an honorable mention from the 2015 Independent Games Festival's Nuovo jury for their 2014 narrative adventure International Jetpack Conference. Last year, Rob received a no-quarter commission from the NYU Games Center, and their City Council simulator game Tidebreakers, co-created with Garrett Miller, debuted in November. Rob and Garrett are currently working on a new game studio called Brainfruit. Rob has created public technical art, and their Twitter bots have been featured in The New Yorker, The Atlantic, NPR, and the Electric Literature Directory. Rob co-hosts Eggplant, a game design podcast with Puzzmo's own Zach Gage, and has constructed crosswords that have appeared on Puzzmo, in the These Puzzles Fund Abortion charity pack, and in More Than One Friend zine. Rob was one of the constructors for Puzzmo's first Open Submission Week, and I've had the privilege to collaborate further with them. Thanks.
Thank you, Brooke. Water bottle doesn't quite fit in the holster. Good morning, everybody. I'm Rob Dubbin, here to experience karmic vengeance for every early lecture I ever skipped. It's an honor to speak at Crossword Con. This friendly, two-limbed creature is who got me into crossword puzzles after decades of thinking, like Brooke said, that they weren't exactly for me. So more about me in a minute. But first, let's give it up for Puzzmo. They didn't tell me to do this. But I think if you're here, or if you're watching, it's in some way because of this website's unflinching commitment to joyful whimsy. And yes, cards on the table. I've known Puzzmo's co-founder, Zach, for a long time, and I've had the privilege of testing and playing many of his games during their development. Several of them are on Puzzmo. No bit pilot yet, but I assume any day now. That one's for the real gauge heads in the audience. Anyway, imagine my surprise in late 2023 when beta testing Zach's soon-to-be-new daily games page. What kept bringing me back was not really bad chess or Spell Tower or, well, I did get really into competitive type shift for a while. But for me, the clear standout was the crossword. It launched in October, and by December had leapt onto my 2023 Games of the Year list. Puzzmo's house style spoke to me. Smaller, cooler grids, first-person voices, wild themes, long clues, sly humor, really just jokes. There was life in these puzzles, and suddenly the form made more sense, and I was desperate to contribute to it. So this talk is about what happened next. How I went from one day liking crosswords to making them myself, and how I stumbled into a construction process that suits my many idiosyncrasies. It's called The Long Road to a Good Shortcut. So I've dodged the question long enough, both in this talk and possibly in life. Just who am I? When I consider my own place in the professional and artistic multiverse, I found the phrase that best sums up my whole deal is utility clown. Let's explore what that means biographically in reverse chronological order. Today, as Brooke said, I'm a game developer and co-founder with Garrett Miller, who designed these amazing slides, of Brainfruit, an independent game studio specializing in small projects that punch above their weight. Last fall, I directed, wrote, and co-developed our first game, Tidebreakers, a 6-player city council simulator with LARP elements about finding consensus amid rising seas for a lively crowd at NYU's No Quarter exhibition. Before that, I was the CEO and co-founder of Scripto, a collaborative writing and production tool for professional projects like TV shows and video games, and talks such as this one. Before I ended up there because before that, I was a writer and producer for The Colbert Report and The Late Show, where Scripta was first developed in response to a question I had the chutzpah and naivete to both ask and follow up on. This thing we make, with all of its moving parts, what if we could use technology to make it faster? To the extent that I was lightly tech-brained, it was maybe because this whole time my hobby was steeping myself in low-stakes coding projects like Twitter bots, generative systems, and retro-flavored video games. This is a football simulator that I made. So I loved creating technology, the weirder the better, to help me tell jokes. So by late 2023, when I first got into making my own crosswords, it wasn't long before I sent in the utility clown. I started with hand-constructed puzzles. I loved the tactile UI of Ingrid, which reminded me of pixel art editors like the Pico 8. I appreciated the clue database of Crosswordville because I felt personally invested in finding fresh angles for common answers like alas, Oreo, tibia, etc., which I soon realized were common answers for a reason. You see, crossword puzzles are hard as shit to fill. Please enjoy this parade of some of my early failures. Even taking editorial standards out of it, simply getting to a grid that didn't resort to some obscure bit of dictionary trash was so much more intricate and difficult than I ever imagined it could be as a solver. The delicate joinery of lining up words to fit in a constrained space while being recognizable and in the language, it was exactly the kind of puzzle that my brain loved to solve, but the actual moment-to-moment work of trying, erasing, and retrying new permutations started to feel a little more RSI-inducing than rewarding. So the tool that really ignited my imagination around crosswords as a new-to-the-form utility clown was Black Square. Black Square is an open-source Python library for representing and manipulating crossword grids in code. And it made me think I could do anything, not exactly in a good way. I was having these big, complex ideas like, what if I could build a puzzle around 3 long words that each had 3 eyes in them on a grid that itself had 3 eyes? Did I just blow your mind? I used Python to filter my dictionary for 3-eyed words, and then Black Square to automate trying to place them in my Triclops pixel grid. While this did eventually fill a folder with countless grids that were technically filled, the best that I could get, with apologies to Alvin Cash's 1964 hit Twine Time, felt well below what I'd come to understand as publication standards. So I shelved that and came up with something even more high concept. This was a treasure hunt puzzle that would have a single X on the grid, and I could adapt the script I'd built to experiment with different placements of the X until I found the one most amenable to being filled, so I could get to the part that I really liked, writing the clues. I would estimate that I spent about 95% of my time climbing to the 5% I supposedly wanted to get to. This is actually the grid that I ended up sending in, as Brooke mentioned, to Puzzmo's first open submission in early 2024. The fill was clear, but the theme was not. And so I was formally invited to submit a new idea, and I would say my real education began. I just want to shout out Brooke, Puzzmo's crossword editor, for her guidance during this time. I ditched Python and went back to basics. I learned how a crossword theme actually worked, and my first 3 bylines for Puzzmo were Baker's Corner, temp title, and a collab with Brooke called Table Setting. In each case, they were planned by brain and filled by hand, no code in sight. I developed during this process more of a sense for grid design and better instincts on how to shift my squares around to try new things. Temp title especially was an exercise in patience. I tried so many variations of the ring shape with subpar fill until I found the one that ran, where it felt almost magically clean when I discovered it. I learned that if I wanted to get to the punchlines, the clues, and the jokes they contained, I had to really care about my setups, the grid, and the fill it contained. But also, now that I'd forged a better understanding of these principles in the minds of temp title, a part of me thought, surely this thing we make, with all of its moving parts, what if we could use technology to make it faster? I was fortunate to contribute recently to These Puzzles Fund Abortion 5, joining an incredible roster of contributors for a cause I believe in. In fact, go buy the pack. Everyone, stop for a moment and photograph this QR code. You have so many mobile tabs open. What's one more? I'd gone back and forth with my editor, Rachel Faby, about a theme, and she had suggested a central bit of wordplay with 3 satellite areas containing 6 key answers connected by the theme. This was the initial grid shape she'd suggested. My job would be to fill it, and honestly, at first, I couldn't. This puzzle was the largest I'd ever attempted, at a 16 by 17, and while I suspected that I could probably eventually find some workable configuration of black squares in this middle area, doing so might take a long time. Then I remembered my folder full of Python scripts. I'd only tried them with set grids. Remember the triclops? But I'd always wondered if my code might also serve the combinatoric crunch of grid formation itself. So this project had a settled theme, and I could reproduce the starting grid and boil it down to the basic stuff that I absolutely needed, plus a bunch of space for my loyal robot to fill. What you're about to see is me kind of gently pushing at the boundaries of the medium of the PDF to display at about 1 frame per second, a sample of my program, which I started calling Griddle, iteratively cooking up new potential shapes for my starting grid. It obeys some basic standards that I've picked up on as a constructor. No 1 or 2 letter answers, nothing longer than my seed phrase, and a fully traversable space. This is getting a little into the weeds, but it can also target certain ratios for the number of black squares to white squares, or the average length of the words in the puzzle, or a maximum number of short words. As it generates the grid step by step, it's always choosing between several possible next moves and picking the one that gets it closest to its goals. In the end, this is the shape that I went with, which fit all my rules and also scored well on some tests that I made for how fillable it would be. One last chance to photograph that QR code, everybody. In short order, I'd filled the grid and had it approved. Then, finally, after all of this, all that was left was the fun part. This puzzle had 89 clues in it, a record for me. I can safely say I am not cured. I still crave the rush of a yawning joke bucket to fill. I've used Griddle a bit since then on puzzles for zines and friends, and plug my brand new blog, Roblem Solving. Not technically a joke, but not a joke. It's real. Where I've already posted 1 puzzle with more to come in this 2025, the year of the blog. Or, whatever, Blue Sky, sure. Follow me there. One of the exciting things about CrosswordCon is that we're all in a room together for half a day before some of us, not me, go off to solve fiendish tournament puzzles at ungodly speeds. So if this lit a fire for you, or you want to talk about where code meets crosswords, come find me, your local utility clown. I think I've only slightly crept into my Q&A time. We've surely got some left. So if you have questions, I have answers.
Who has, let's give Rob a hand. Who's got questions? I know, but I'm seeing if other people raise their hands. Adrian?
As a relatively new constructor, can you just share one of your favorite original clues from the TPFA puzzle, and if there's another in general that you really enjoy that wasn't on I remember I saw one on the page, but where do you look for your clue voice as someone that had a background in comedy as well?
Gosh, I would say my comedy background is an improviser, and the key thing about improv for me is that I would forget everything that I said immediately after the show, and it's kind of similar, I guess, with puzzles. I sort of remember them, but the TPFA puzzle, this isn't a cop-out. It's sort of a cop-out. I would just say maybe if you buy the pack, you'll find a clue you might like. But I don't know.
Wait, can I interrupt you?
Yeah, please.
Do you want to talk about the crows?
Oh, yeah. So the first puzzle, Baker's Corner, had 1 clue in it when I submitted it to Brooke the first time. And this is kind of on point with what she was saying earlier about sort of finding your voice in the editing process. I really support that, and I guess if I have one piece of advice, it's trust your editor, because I had 1 clue that sort of alluded to the idea of crows, and while we were editing it, Brooke pluralized it, And I was like, oh wait, multiple
I think it was
cause.
cause, and
Yeah,
it
it
was
was-
greetings from my crow friend.
And the answer was cause.
And then we turned it into greetings from my crow friends.
Exactly. And
But
yes, go ahead.
no, you.
Well, just as soon as it was multiple crow friends, everywhere that there was a clue that needed to be edited, I was like, maybe we can make this about crows. And it really became a theme of the puzzle. Like, I don't even think it's just about, hey, there's like one really good joke in this puzzle. It's like, hey, like the clues of the puzzle are this document that is like technically kind of like fragmented. Like they're all different clues. They're all like the basket of words in a given crossword puzzle is not exactly like a beautiful paragraph. But they do connect, and the opportunity to connect them is the clues. So I thought that was a real like aha moment for me in terms of thinking of it as like a unified space with a lot of opportunity for like callbacks and in-jokes and stuff like that, rather than just like I gotta nail it one by one and they're all in their own little silo. You're welcome.
Any questions for Rob?
Hey, I have a question actually about the algorithms that you use.
Let's go.
Yeah. So you did both like solving for where you could put blocks and also solving for words inside of the actual grids that you gave it. And I was just curious, like what kind of time that those took, not to write them, but like what they execute like.
So I love a program that you kind of got to let bake for a while. Like I love letting something run overnight and then seeing what it came up with when I wake up. I didn't actually use, so I don't believe, I really like filling grids by hand. But I noticed that, like if you've ever used like constructing software, maybe some of y'all will recognize this moment where like you put in a shape and it says fillable like really fast and it's like ding, it's fillable. And you can sort of struggle to reach that moment. And when you reach it, it's telling you, hey, like there's a lot of solutions to this shape. So when I was testing for fillability, what I was doing was like a sort of random, almost like Monte Carlo method for the stat folks. Yeah, let's give it up for Monte Carlo. Seeding random letters on the grid and then testing how quickly it would fill with that, and then testing that in a few places so that it would score it highly. And then when I was looking the next morning at what it had done overnight, it would be like, oh, these like 10 were like really fillable. And so that's where I would start trying to fill it myself with the suggestions from the software, knowing that I had sort of given myself a little bit of like a downhill path to getting it done. So it almost like the speed that I was going through it, it would just like, it's like imagine it being like 5 times faster, but not succeeding a lot of the time. Like it would try to do blocks, it'd be like, nah, we tried this already, or it's not fillable, so we're just gonna skip it, and then it would just keep going. Because there's so many combinations, like you can't possibly get them all, which is cool.
We can take one more question. Zach, you haven't? Oh, you found one. Great.
Thanks, Rob. I think your question of like, how could we use technology on this is one that I often ask and have zero skills to solve. And I'm wondering from the perspective of an editor or someone who runs a Crossword platform, like, can you use technology to say, this is a hard puzzle, this is an easy puzzle, this is a puzzle that is good because I liked these other puzzles, this is a puzzle I'm going to hate?
Well, I mean, you're getting into like a question of sort of taste there. And I don't know. I think that one of the things that I learned through this process is that I couldn't like tech my way to taste. Like I tried just like throwing compute at it at first, and the results were worse. Like I didn't know what I was doing. And I feel like there's such a human side to crosswords that resonate, and you know, like seeing the work that Brooke puts in to like make Puzzmo what it is and like promote the voices the way that Puzzmo does. Then I would hesitate, I guess, to automate or something like that. But I really do believe in like reducing friction in those processes. And, you know, I've seen a little, as like somebody who's been like friendly with the team for a long time, of like the stuff they've got on the back end to make it easy for them to manage a large number of submissions, and easier to sort of keep track of like what's in the pipeline, what's running, when is it running, how like that clock for like when we have to run it by, like how are we tracking that, those sorts of things. Like I think those are where I would to the extent my recommendation matters, like recommend putting like stuff like tech cycles to facilitate the work of the humans who are in the loop making the thing happen, rather than expecting the machine to kind of do the hard work itself. I think that's it. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you. That was amazing.